Hello, this is John from Revit for Interior Designers. Today I'm going to elaborate on a past post from my website, whereas I discuss downloading models from the internet into Revit. This is located under the Revit resource link here on the site. Here I post several websites that have 3D models you can download into Revit. And in particular, I'm going to discuss and elaborate on Pretension, this website here. So let me close this tab. Here is a modern European furniture designer, Pretension. And under the website, they have different sofa options. Let's take this one in particular. If I click on this option, I can scroll further down and find that they have a download feature here. Inside that, they have 2D, 3D models. Here's another link. Ultimately, I arrive to a page that has several modeling options you can bring into Revit. In an ideal world, you want to bring in RFA files, Revit family files. Although you can also use RVT files, also Revit project files. Unfortunately, they have neither on this website. But what they do have here is a 3D model of their sofa vis-a-vis this link here. So I've downloaded that project and I'm going to bring it into Revit and investigate what it looks like. Because more often than not, websites may offer Revit files, but they're not in a Revit format. I'm going to close this site. Here I have Revit 2020 open, and I'm simply going to insert the AutoCAD file into my project. I'm currently on level 1. I'm going to use link CAD. I avoid using Import CAD as it brings in unnecessary information from AutoCAD into Revit. It simply clutters the Revit interface in various menus. So rather than doing this, I will do it this way using a link. And AutoCAD, it's called an X reference. Very similar here in Revit. I'll choose link CAD. I will go into my folder. I will choose the one of the models that I've downloaded off the website here. I will notice here that I've got options here to download the file and preserve all the layer colors from AutoCAD. And I'll do just that. I'll bring in simply the AutoCAD layers. I will open this file. Now here, once it's loaded, the first thing you have to do is determine if it's the right size. Now, a simple DI in Revit allows me to measure from one end of the sofa to the other. I'm going to grab an object there, and I'll notice here that this is a 48-foot long sofa, as I'm currently working in feet and inches. A very, very quick way in Revit to deal with size issues is to simply draw a reference plane that describes the incorrect size of the object you're trying to use. I'm going to use the little arrow here to slide over that reference plane. And I'm going to copy this reference plane with the copy command here. Pick a start point, move it over, let's say 5 feet, for example. I'm simply guessing how wide this sofa could be. I'm going to select the sofa. I'm going to unpin it because I want to make changes. Linked files typically come pinned, which don't allow you to move the object in the Revit scene. So I'm going to simply select and unpin the object. I'm going to select it here, and under the Modify tab, I'm going to use the Scale command. And using these reference planes, I can describe the original size of the sofa and then describe how big it should be. So simply, this reference plane on the left, from this location to this location, is the wrong size. And by simply pulling on the mouse now and choosing the second line here, which is 5 feet away, that creates the correct size. In this case, 5 feet. I'll delete my reference planes. I'll use the 3D tool here to launch my 3D view. I will hide my floor planes here. I'm going to right click on these levels, hide them for a second. I'll hide the entire category with my 3D view. I'll type ZA for zoom all, and using shift mouse wheel, I'll rotate around the sofa here. And that is the model brought in from AutoCAD. Now, what does it look like if I begin to use it in a shaded view or ultimately a rendered view? So simply here in your display settings, I'll choose shaded, and you'll notice that the sofa comes in with this arbitrary red color. And if I use a ray trace as a simple, quick example of what a rendering might look like, I'll choose that option here to take a look at my product. And I'll notice here that it comes out with this generic gray color. So let's cancel that for a second, return to my hidden line view, and determine what things I can do in AutoCAD, an AutoCAD file that's been imported into Revit. So I'll select this object, I'll go to VG, and under imported categories, I see that the product has been brought into here. This is the AutoCAD file, and these are 2 layers. And I can simply hide layer 0, hit apply, and determine if any of those products, surfaces, models, are on layer 0. And it seems that in this case, the entire sofa is on layer 0. If I turn off layer A shade, for example, nothing happens. These 2 happen to be AutoCAD layers that are brought in by default. In an ideal world, you want an AutoCAD file that has all the objects on a variety of different layers, so that in Revit, you can actually assign materials to those layers so they appear correct in your renderings. Where does that happen? So let's go under Manage, and let's go under Object Styles. And here, again, under Imported Objects, I can see the object here. And I notice here on the far right, there's materials assigned to those layers from AutoCAD. And we know only this one here is truly working, layer 0. So if I simply choose that value there, and for example, choose a bright red color as an experiment to determine if the color changes anything. I hit apply here, hit OK. Nothing has happened. I return to Object Styles. I return to Import Objects. For the heck of it, I will try a shade. I'll choose a line color. Again, I'll choose a obnoxious color like red to determine if it has any effect on the model whatsoever. Hit apply, hit OK, nothing happens yet again. So I have used object styles to try to manipulate the objects from this AutoCAD file, and to no avail, nothing has happened. If I know that the sofa is under layer 0, I can apply material to it here. And if I choose the material, as an example, I'll do a search for fabric. Here at the bottom are the materials installed on my computer. I'll simply choose some type of arbitrary material here that I can select and look at the pattern. Unfortunately, for imported models, the pattern that you typically want to use should be fairly simplistic. Ideally, just a color without a pattern here, because those don't correctly appear in Revit when you're dealing with renderings. This would be like a solid color, for example. This weathered, what would this be? Linen beige. So I will use up arrow here and copy that file from my folders that were installed by Revit into my project here. I will click on that object, double click. I've assigned it to layer 0, which should be the entire 3D object here. Hit apply, hit OK, and then try to do a little test render. And unfortunately, again, nothing happens. Why is this? Well, the problem is that these models weren't actually drawn in AutoCAD. they were actually drawn in a 3D program, for example, 3D Studio Max. They were then exported from those programs into a 3D AutoCAD format. In some cases, these are exported into Revit formats. And unfortunately, there is no prep work done by the developers of this product to work in a Revit environment. They're simply, for lack of a better word, dumb 3D models that don't necessarily work. So let's go into AutoCAD and open that file again. Now here, I've got the file open. There's the file here. I'm using Shift mouse wheel again to rotate around the model. And I'm going to select it, and you see that it has this border around the edges, and all of the polygons, all the surfaces that create the 3D model have been highlighted. Now, in an ideal world, you would take 3D objects from AutoCAD, assign them a layer, and those layers can become active in Revit and be manipulated. Unfortunately, because of this model being built in a 3D Studio Max platform, there's really not much I can do here in AutoCAD unless the model is exploded. So I will type X for explode, hit enter, touch the model, hit enter. And there I can see by selecting on the screen, there's my model. Now it's a little hard to find, but there is the object I'm looking for. I'm going to change my view type to, let's say, hidden, for example. And there I can see the model in, again, this sort of gray color. I can also change my view settings here to shade with edges. And then again, there's another preview of the model. And I'll use the view cube here to take a look at it from the front vantage point here, the front elevation. And what I want to do is grab surfaces from this model that have been exploded. Therefore, all the polygons here that build a 3D model have all been exploded into various pieces and parts here. In AutoCAD, that becomes a very messy model, obviously. But what I want to do is assign these objects to different layers. So with the layer command here, I'll simply come into AutoCAD's layer feature and grab a layer and make this, for example, 3D frame. And I'll give this a color. And under index color, I'll call it number 1, which is red. Then I'll make another layer here. I'll call it 3D leg. I'll change its color to something different. Index color number 2, which is yellow. And I will move these polygons into those layers so that they get translated correctly into Revit, and then I can manipulate those layers any which way I like in Revit in terms of assigning materials and changing the colors of the lines. So I will grab all these polygons here in AutoCAD. And then here, I'll simply convert those to the layer called 3D frame. Now you'll notice that the layer here, the objects are still this sort of black color instead of the red color that I've assigned to these polygons. So another thing that needs to happen here is when you select these objects here, in fact, select all the objects. If I select all the objects here, you'll notice that the colors by default here have been assigned to object color black, which is 000, when in fact they should reflect what layer those objects are on. So flipping this to by layer tells the polygons colors to be assigned by the layer they're on. Hit escape. And for example, these turn red because the layer that I've assigned them to is 3D frame. I'll then come here and drag my mouse across the bottom of the screen here. I'll do my best to grab just the legs. And then again, I will assign those to 3D leg layer. And I'll rotate around the model to see that, in fact, I've grabbed the appropriate items. Now here, I'm missing a little bit more of the legs, so I will select my mouse right to left to create a crossing window here to grab those polygons. And then I will assign them to layer 3D leg. And as I rotate around the model, I'll see I've achieved what I'm after. I need to be able to take these legs and assign them a color in Revit. You need to assign the body of the chair a different color. And you do that by applying layers to those objects. So I will take this 3D model, I'll do a file, save as, and I'll save them to my computer. And I've already done this here, called it exploded layers. Let's use that 3D model instead. So let's return to Revit. I'll delete this model here. And so under Insert, Manage Links, because this was brought in through Link CAD, I'll use Manage Links to find that model, which is under CAD Formats. I'll click on that model. I'll use Remove and OK, and that eliminates the model from my project. I'll then return to Insert Link CAD, and I will link my second model here, preserving AutoCAD's layers as an example. And I will place it on layer 1, level 1, which is the current level I'm on. Hit open. The model comes through. And you'll notice immediately that it's yellow. When I go to 3D here, you'll notice that the legs are red. AutoCAD's layers are being successfully passed into Revit. So, if I go to VG again and look at my imported categories, you'll notice that the AutoCAD file comes in with new layers. If I were to select the 3D chair layer, which is the body of the chair, and I unhide it here, or I rather hide it rather, and hit apply, it disappears. You notice the legs are on the 3D legs layer. So now I have access to those models. VG again. I can also, down here, go to Object Styles, under Imported Categories. And this is sort of a shortcut, because normally, to get to Object Styles, you would go to Manage Object Styles here. But if you're already in Visibility Graphics, or VG, and you're already in Imported Categories, you can go to here, Object Styles, and again, find Imported Objects, which are these. And you notice here, these are the AutoCAD layer colors. The line colors are coming through. Therefore, if you were to choose this yellow and change it to whatever random color you might like, let's say this gray color, or maybe purple, hit OK, hit apply, you'll notice that the lines of the objects here have changed to that color because I'm in the line column. If I go to red, choose that, and for example, choose black, and hit OK, you notice that the lines here are already red, and hit OK and apply, you'll notice that the lines of those objects turn to black right there. So these are the lines, and if you simply go into a realistic view, you'll notice it's still gray. We haven't assigned any materials. Obviously, Ray Trace is going to give you the same look. It's a preliminary rendering. No materials have been assigned. So let's go back to shaded view for 1 second here. Let's go back to Object Styles. Manage Object Styles here. Let's go back to Imported Objects. Let's click on that chair. You can see the line colors that have been assigned. Now, the surface colors are assigned via AutoCAD. So the yellow and the red are the layer colors. So the lines and the colors are two separate entities that can be manipulated. So let's go back to Insert and eliminate this model. Let's go Manage Links. Manage Links, CAD Formats, select the model, remove it again. So it's gone for good. Let's link it a second time here. Link CAD again, find the model. This time, instead of preserve colors, let's choose black and white. And let's see what happens then. All the other settings remain the same, although the model will be too big. And there, you can see that all the lines are set to black. but the yellow and the red come through in terms of the surfaces. And if I use a quick tape measure here, you'll note that the model is, in fact, 50 some odd feet long. And we've already described how to shrink it down to size. So let's go further and assign materials to this object. So we can return to Manage, Object Styles, go to Imported Objects, find that body of the chair, and you can see the colors that have been assigned to the lines. And over here on the right, choose a material. And again, I will choose fabric. And there's the linen fabric I brought in earlier. Under Appearance, I can see a preview of the material that's going to be applied to my model. I can grab this line here and drag it out. It'll be that material. In an ideal world, there are no patterns assigned to the materials. Any type of patterns, stripes, checkerboard patterns, floral patterns, will not look correct when assigned to a 3D model in Revit. The mapping is completely wrong. So avoid it altogether and simply do solid colors. So let's say I assign that to the body of the chair, and then for the legs, I will click on this material. I'll choose that menu there, and I'll do a search for, let's say, cherry. Material here called cherry for wood. I will double click on it. It's been assigned to that material column for those legs. Hit apply, and lo and behold, the colors of the objects have changed. So it turns out that Revit's materials overrides AutoCAD's materials. So simply returning to object styles and taking a look at your imported objects and taking a look at this chair, for example, and looking at that beige color there, it turns out that not only will the rendered appearance here show up under ray trace or an actual rendering you might produce, it's also using graphic settings here. And the graphic settings here are overriding AutoCAD's layers colors. So if you wanted this chair to appear a tan color, you might want to use render appearance checkbox, which basically takes this color and creates an average of that color and puts it here. Or you can simply turn that off, choose this bar, and choose any other color you might like. Now I'm going to use it in this case. The other material I was using was called cherry. So if I do a quick search here for cherry, cherry, for example, comes out with this orangish color. Those are the legs at the bottom there. But to prove my point, if I chose this color and simply made those legs really dark, like a dark brown color, hit apply again here, and notice I've accidentally assigned both materials to cherry, but you can see the cherry is being passed into the product. So I was dealing with this material here a second ago when I made those changes. That's why they applied to this material. This should have been fabric. Double click on that material, hit apply, it gets applied to just the surface of the fabric, and then there's the color of the legs down there. And then you can decide, if you like, to assign the exact same colors to the actual lines. So for example, linen beige, if currently it's black. This is a shaded appearance. If I go into here and simply change, if I take this color here, double click. Oh, actually it's been checked here. So 199, 194, 175, RGB, red, green, and blue. If I take those color assignments and assign them to the lines here, instead of black, I'm using RGB, 199, 179, or I'm sorry, 174, and the last number will be 175. Hit apply. And then suddenly, the lines are simply the same color as the fabric. Now, because of the shading that's going on here, you can't really tell. The lines are still appearing, but you could manipulate the lines to whatever color you like, even matching that material's color. And you can see the effect. If I was in consistent colors, you see the effect there. I'm currently in shaded view. Now let's try a rendering. Let's do realistic, and you can see closely here that the material is passing into this object surfaces. And you can see here, closer look, the grain of the wood is actually being passed into the legs of the chair. And finally, if I do a quick ray trace, which is a very fast rendering on the screen here, it's really more of a preview. You can see what it might look like in a rendered environment. And lo and behold, the materials are being correctly passed into Revit when you do a rendering in the future. The polygons here show up only because the quality of the model you've downloaded are such that this kind of quality gets produced. If you find a higher polygon model, a larger file size, and bring it into Revit, it might smooth out these surfaces and you can create a better looking model. But for the purposes of a quick rendering, this might suffice. So there you have it, how to take an AutoCAD file that's not been prepared for Revit. In fact, it hasn't been prepared for AutoCAD either, to modify it in AutoCAD to assign layers correctly to the surfaces, and then to bring those layers into Revit so that you can apply line colors and material assignments, and also surface assignments under the shaded value here, so that your models look appropriate. Please revisit my website, revitforid.weebly.com, and visit my Facebook group page, Revit for Interior Designers, for more information on using Revit, AutoCAD, and other various programs in the architectural and interior design community. Thank you very much. That's all for today.